All right. So, hi Sanjay. Thank you for giving time to do this podcast. For a lot of people who don't know, I and Sanjay have been actually connected since I was at Zeta because I saw his name first when we were hiring at Zeta in about 21 or 22, I guess, where we were scaling the team from 20 to 60 and Sanjay helped our team at that time. Uske baad when I was also trying to find a job, I had reached out to you and we had spoken a bit about what the market was, and I was looking for a remote job and you helped me figure out ki what the anatomy of the market was at that time. So from there on I always had this one point of contact ki agar to know how the design market is, I need to reach out to one person. At least in my network I have one person, and that was you. So hence I thought of doing this podcast with you, wherein a lot of student or aspirants in my UX community have a bunch of questions. I wanted to address that, but more than that, I myself have a lot of curious questions around design hiring which I wanted to understand from you, and hence I thought of talking, and then the byproduct of it could be a podcast. So thank you so much for giving me this time.
Thanks, Bharat. It's a pleasure talking to you too.
Yeah. So I wanted to get started with understanding your journey first, right? So how did you get into design and design hiring? How did you start? Could you tell a bit about that?
So, Bharat, I think quite a long back, I think around 2001, I graduated in, and along with my graduation, I was studying computer science, I mean, programming and design and all. So this is how my journey into the world of design started, particularly into the design recruitment when I was working as a principal product designer in one company called Yodlee. I think this is 2019 on so. That time I was having a couple of roles for my own team,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working with in-house team and a couple of recruitment agencies, leading recruitment agencies in India. And I realized ki it is very, very tough to hire designers, and particularly with the people who do not understand design, like HR people and the staffing agencies and all that, it is very difficult for them to find the right design folks. And I was
Mm-hmm.
facing that problem. Was that I talked with some of the design leaders and my mentors, like Sunit Singh, who was head
Mm-hmm.
of design at Clear Trip and
Clear.
Ola.
Yes.
The guy Samir Bhiwani, who was VP of design at Scriptbox, and now he is with the Google. The guy called Karthik, who was the head of design for InMobi, Glance, and later he was a design head at a Khatabook and all that. So I met couple of those design leaders, try to understand, I mean, are they also facing the same problem that I was facing and all that? And I realized and learned that it is a very common problem most of the design leaders are facing when they are hiring a high quality design talent. So
Correct.
that was the gap I have seen, that okay, there is a demand for a design recruiter in the market. And in India, I think I mean, I could not see a person with a title as a design recruiter. I think in US, I think companies like Google and all who has a full-time design recruiter as a part of their
Mm-hmm.
team. So this is where I saw a gap between the demand and supply. And I mean, and that is how I think got curious about design recruitment. And in fact, I talked with some of those design leaders that is it, I mean, it would be really helpful if they can help me partner with their respective organizations and work as a design recruiter and all that. So
Got it.
I started getting few consulting design hiring projects along with my full-time job as a principal product designer for a
Got it.
couple of months.
So were
I
you
wanted to test.
so you
Yeah,
were
please.
consulting along with the job that you were doing at that time, was it?
Yes, so along with my full-time job, when my on my free time on the Saturday, Sunday, on post my office hours and all that,
Okay.
I started doing a lot of research and all that. My friend who was a head of design at Glance or InMobi that time, he helped me partner with the InMobi team, and
Got it.
that is how along with full-time job I got a first design hiring project. That gave me enough motivations and confidence that okay, this is something I can do. So
Hmm.
I, along with my full-time job, I think almost 3 months I did design recruitment gig, and somewhere I started liking talking to people, understanding their career journey, what they are doing in their respective organizations and all that. So I started liking more than doing design, and I got that confidence, okay, this is something I can do for a rest of my life or for a
Hmm.
longer period of my life. And this is how I transitioned from design to a design recruitment. And
Got it.
in fact, I mean, when I work with the companies like InMobi and few other organizations where I have few connections, or the people, the design leaders who were I have a good rapport and all that, I started getting the design hiring projects, but I did not have the presentable website or my own brand and all that. So Being User was my portfolio website as a designer, beinguser.com. And in fact, I did not have enough time to think about another new brand and all that. So I started using Being User and I changed the content of the website, and my website, my design portfolio become and it was not a very well thought, well brainstorm like brand and what should be the brand name and all that. So beinguser.com was my personal portfolio website as a designer that time.
Oh, that's a very insightful story. How did you got it? I mean, you found a problem and you wanted to solve that problem. A lot of us find a lot of problem, but then we overcomplicate things कि अरे ऐसा होना चाहिए, logo ऐसा होना चाहिए and all of that. But this is very fascinating that you already had a website domain and you said कि okay, let's just get started with being user. My next questions are actually on being user because I have also been an applicant through being user. So I wanted to understand how did that idea come to you? I can leave job now and I can get started with being user full time.
So as I told you, initially 3 months I was doing this along with my full-time job in my post office hours and on a weekend and all that. I wanted to test the water key. Is this something I really want to do for a long period of my career, or this is just a time being temporary, like got curiosity and I just want to do that and all.
Hmm.
So this is how I started doing along with my full-time job. Another reason for me to move from a design to design recruitment was कि I think I worked as a designer for more than 10 years, and somewhere I think I was feeling that I have done enough of problem solving through interface and the UX and all these things. I wanted to go into a different problem solving area where I will continue being a problem solver. Whatever I
Hmm.
learn as a designer about empathy, about understanding the problem statement, talk to the stakeholders, whatever the fundamental principle I learned as a designer, I wanted to try those same principles in some other problem solving rather than just sticking myself with the UI world or the design
Hmm.
world. So that was also another curiosity that can I do that? And
Got.
yeah, I think as a design recruiter these days, I think I'm not doing maybe a lot of creative stuff what other designers are doing with the Figma framework
Hmm.
or design a lot of cool interfaces and all that. But I think as a small entrepreneurship journey, what I learn is कि beyond design or besides design, I'm able to do a lot of things that makes me a horizontal problem solver. I mean, I'm able to
Correct.
do sales, marketing, content writing, how to write the copy in the website that attract more engagement, how SEO works. There are a lot of other skills that I acquired with this small venture. So I
Got it.
feel I'm grateful that I transitioned from design to design recruitment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a very different skill set that is required to run a company like being user. So I mean, yeah, I mean, kudos to you to keep evolving all the time. So that's great. But I'm pretty sure design would have helped you, get a head start into entrepreneurship as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think in any work that we do in this time, I think be it plumbing or carpentry, I think problem solving is at a core. So if you think you are a good problem solver, I feel ki whatever the problem you picked up, I think down the line you would be able to solve in nicest, delightful way possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now coming to being user, what kind of problem does it solve for your clients? And is it any different from, let's say, any recruitment agencies?
So I think when I was thinking about transitioning from design to design recruitment, initial couple of months, I did a lot of research that how this typical recruitment agencies work and what is their approach when it comes to finding the right profiles or the helping clients and all that. I think typically recruitment agencies, what they do is they go to LinkedIn, try to find matching profiles through the keywords and the skill set and all that. They
Correct,
download all the profiles. They will do cold calls or the cold emails to all the candidates. They will ask what is your current CTC, what is your expected CTC, what is your notice period, what is your total experience. These are the
correct.
three common
Template is
questions
there
they
for
ask.
for that message.
Template is
Yes,
there. They do not understand design, so they do not go deeper into the profile. And we all know that design is very subjective. Design comes in very different flavors. For example, the guy who is working at a Swiggy or the guy who is working at Oracle or SAP, though in terms of title, both the designers has a product designer as a title, but we know they both brings a different value and the skill set on a
correct.
table.
Yes,
The guy who is a B2B designer, B2C designers, I'm a visual designer, UI designer. So I think every designer comes in a different skill set and a value. So it is very difficult for the regular staffing agencies to understand all the nuances of design. So that
Yeah,
is, I mean, that point was very, very clear to me that if I go into that direction, or any other designer who go into the design recruitment, they would definitely can do a much better than the regular staffing agencies. I do not want to do the front end development hiring and all that because that is not my expertise.
correct.
When it comes to being user, me being a designer, it gives me a different edge when I'm talking to the designers. We are not in the game of just downloading resume from various sites and all that. With my curated database from last 5 years, I have 10,000 plus data curated candidate in my database, plus my own network of talking to a lot of designers. So that way we generate very high quality leads based on the client requirement. Post that, I do 30-40 minutes of discussion with the candidate just to help their career motivations, their career journey, what kind of design projects they have done, whether this guy is a B2B, B2C. So if I have any right roles that matches with career aspiration, we do a matchmaking that way. And once after my discussion with the candidate, we collect all the details, what I understood about this profile and whether this profile matches with my client requirement, yes or no.
Hmm.
We collect all the details, share it with the clients, and try to provide a very delightful experience to the candidate and the companies both. So
Got it.
that way, I think so far in my experience, at least with the design hiring, we definitely are adding a good value to
Got
candidate
it.
and companies both.
Yeah. I think your experience, like you said, your experience as a designer here actually plays a big role because other recruitment agencies don't have that lens, which is a very specialist design leadership lens, wherein the way you would be able to dissect applicant into say that this person falls into visual design bucket or this person falls into B2C, this person falls into B2B experience, their aspirations are so and so. I think that would be your biggest differentiation when it comes to the recruitment agency versus being user, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think sometimes the companies has a very specific requirement. For example, let's
Hmm.
say a good B2C company may come up with the requirement that, okay, we already have a user researcher in our team. So we are not looking for somebody who is a very solid problem solver or a user researcher. What we are looking for somebody who is good with the interaction design, motion design, and a visual craft. So
Yeah.
now, so each company may have a different requirement versus if it is a heavy enterprise company, they will say that we already have a design system in a place, we already have a visual designers in a team. We are not looking for somebody who is so great in the visual
Hmm.
communications or the visual craft. What we are looking for is very complex problem solver, someone who can understand the complexities of our workflow, our integration, working with various tools and all that. So I think the requirement comes in a different flavor. So yeah, definitely if someone who is coming from a design background, it definitely gives a different edge.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, definitely you guys are making a mark on the design recruitment side for sure. Now, since I was also, curious about a bunch of other things, we actually have a curiosity community, okay, so wherein there are about 2,750 very young designers there.
Mhm.
And now they have a bunch
Is it
of questions.
2007?
Yeah, it is ever growing. I have
That.
not checked how much is it.
But you are maintaining those, so you are managing that community on WhatsApp,
Yeah, all of that is on WhatsApp. I
but
have
it
tried.
doesn't cross the limit,
It crosses
WhatsApp
the
limit.
limit. So there are multiple communities. So one, Curiosity two, and it will grow like that. I think scale will be a problem that I want to have. So right now it's 2000 and 1750 or something like that. Oh no, no, sorry, 2000 and 750. These are the two groups right now. So in that group, lot of young people are there, and lot of young people have been asking a few recurring questions around design. Okay, so bunch of conversation happen every morning when I wake up. I see a few questions that are always recurring. One of them is around resume and portfolio, right? So what is
Mhm.
your stance on how important a resume is and how important a portfolio is for a designer?
I mean, for example, if you are a fashion designer and if you go to any events and the meetups and all that, what is your attire? I mean, what is that you are wearing? How good you are presenting yourself with your clothes and all that? I think that is the same metaphor or analogy for a designers. I mean, if you cannot present yourself in a good, respectable format in the resume, many of the times you are a reject. So your resume is your first piece of paper that goes in the hand of hiring manager or HR, and they try to judge you how good you are. We designers should treat our resume as a small design task. I mean, how good you are able to solve the problem of the hiring manager. So hiring manager or the HR are the people who are our stakeholders or the users, and they are facing one problem. They have to go through, let's say, hundreds of profiles every day. Now,
Yeah.
how they can understand about a candidate, let's say within 10 seconds, if they have to know a candidate's profile, who is this guy, where he worked in a recent past, where is his portfolio link, what kind of projects he has worked, what are his expertise and all that. If someone has to understand the candidates, the key data, how your resume is able to help them understand those things in, let's say, 10 or 15 seconds.
Hmm.
If a candidate fails to do that, many of the time it is a reject. So resumes definitely plays a critical role in a two aspects: how good you are able to communicate your key information to the person who is seeing your resume.
Got it.
Two, what is the format of your resume? Is it a good presentable format, or it is the visual hierarchy is very broken, or the layout of the resume is not in good form and all that, or the colors or the types that you are using, it is not readable and all that.
Got it.
So that is, I
Yeah.
think, the resume part.
So
So coming to
resume,
the,
you're saying that it is like a first impression for anybody who is
yeah, yeah,
looking at you, right? And then the thing is the content and the presentation both matters. Ki how are you making it readable and consumable? Also creating a lasting impression in the first 10 seconds, 15 seconds, right? That's
yeah, yeah.
the core goal with the resume.
A simple example can be, for example, let's say somebody is working at a Zeta.
Hmm.
Okay, instead of saying that, oh, January 2022 to, let's say, December 2023, I worked with the Zeta. Instead of using Zeta word, the person can use Zeta logo as well. I mean, the way I think
Uh,
LinkedIn is appearing, the
yeah,
candidate could have shown the logos where he has worked. That
correct.
reduces a cognitive load to the hiring manager. I mean, our candidates are designers. I mean, particularly we are all designers. So our designers are able to think through that lens, that what hiring manager is going through the pain. So
Hmm.
so resume is definitely very important.
Got it. One thing which is very different from other hiring and design hiring is probably the portfolio thing, right? Pretty
Hmm.
much every designer who is interested in, doing a job switch or job hunt, they would start working on portfolio. Most of the time in our life, we would work on the portfolio only when it is time to do a job switch. So what is your idea about, portfolios? How important are they? Can anybody also do a job switch without portfolio, because sometimes we don't get that time to work on a portfolio? What is your thought on portfolios?
So I think one of the common mistake that I have seen with the portfolio is, first is, there is no need to have a very fancy portfolio design in a Framer or any of the fancy websites.
Okay.
The use of the portfolio is just to let hiring manager know that what are your skill set, whether you are a B2B guy, or how do you understand the problem, how do you go deep into the understanding the problem, and how do you reach to the design solutions and all that. Even if you have a confidential work, you can show some hypothetical case studies and all that. So the requirement of portfolio is not a having a very fancy portfolio. Whatever that gives a glimpse to the hiring manager to understand about your values, that is what is required. The portfolio can be in Google Drive, Behance link, PDF link, Figma link, anything is fine. Sometimes
Correct.
we go crazy and we spend so much of time building a very fancy portfolio, but that is not the need.
Yeah.
Plus, I think sometimes when we apply to the job, we don't share the portfolio link and all that. I mean, if you look at the hiring manager, if they have to deal with the volumes of profile, it is very difficult for them to understand the designer's portfolio. I mean, it is very difficult to understand the value the designer bring on table without seeing their portfolio, because every designer is different. The guy who is working at a Razorpay versus Zeta versus
Correct.
IBM versus, let's say, Oracle versus Swiggy. And within companies also, sometimes we know that for maybe in the company like a Zeta also, there must be a guy called product designer, but the one product designer is focusing too much on the design system.
Hmm.
Another product designer, though the title is same, but the another
Correct.
guy is focusing on the execution part. One
Correct.
designer is working on the complex enterprise product. Another designer is working on a easy low hanging internal tools. Now in terms of title, everybody is same, product designer at a Zeta.
Correct.
So for hiring manager, it is very, very difficult. What were you doing at a Zeta? What kind of projects you are working?
Yeah.
So I think the portfolio becomes very, very critical or important for hiring managers. So my suggestion is to show some glimpse of your work. that helps hiring manager understand what kind of designer you are.
Got it.
Sometimes I think another mistake people do, they share very outdated portfolios, something which was not updated
Hmm.
in a, let's say, last 2 years and all. I mean, you are a product designer. It's not required to show your illustration skill or
Yeah.
some branding projects you may have done and all that. So I think showing very relevant recent project of last 1 or 2 years, that I think also important when it comes to showing the portfolio. Sometimes
Got
people
it.
do show very old projects that they may have done during that design colleges and all that, or some very random shots on a UI shots on a dribble and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think showing the right work that aligns with the role that you are applying, that is also important.
That is true. I mean, that was just yesterday or even day before yesterday. I was talking to somebody who is a very junior designer just coming up from college. And what he had done was he had done a bunch of case studies, which some of them were very in depth, but then some of them, the problem that he solved were just tiny, right? Like maybe adding an image or adding a video to some place. And then he would write a case study as if like it's a 6 month project, right? So that's also something that I've seen where it's not a very irrelevant thing also, but it's a very small thing that people sometimes solve. And but while documenting, sometimes they write a Ramayana out of it. So that's
Yeah,
also
yeah,
something that I tell, "Ki, come on, I mean, whoever is looking at your portfolio, they're spending, let's say, 2 minutes on one of the project and you are not giving them enough value and you're just bluffing around, with a lot of words and all. I mean, keep it focused,
correct.
keep it tight, keep it relevant. So I think that's also one thing.
Just to add to your point, I think one of the common portfolios or the common case studies people are showing that okay, they have redesigned some sign up flow or the login flow. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't need to comment on the login flow. Login and
correct.
sign up are
Exactly.
mostly, it's a solved problem. There is not very complex thing that you need to make
Yes.
a very detailed case study. In fact, I would suggest people to not show any sign up or the login flow until unless it is a breakthrough or completely different than
Hmm.
what is there in the market.
Got it. Yes, that completely makes sense. Since we are in this journey of resume ho gaya, portfolio ho gaya, there is one more round that everybody is kind of complaining about in my curiosity group at least, which is take home assignment, right? So what is your thought on that?
So I think, I mean, there are two sides of this debate. Designers hate doing take-home design assignment,
Yes.
and companies wants to do design assignment as a part of mandatory process.
Yes.
I think both sides are taking the extreme. I think my thought here is companies also needs to be liberal in the sense, okay, the design assignment should not be a mandatory part of the process. It should be given as and when it is a required. For example, let's say you have well documented case studies and all that, and in your case studies there are enough complex problems or enterprise related problem that you have nicely, okay, but let's say you are unable to show some of your visual communication skills, or your portfolio does not have any project that shows your visual communication skills or how good you are a visual communicator, okay. Now let's say, and a company where you are applying, they need this skill set as a part of the candidate.
Yeah.
In that case, if company gives you a small design task which is only focused on the visual communication skill, that a small redesign of one, let's say, tabular page or whatever dashboard and all that, that still makes sense. Company needs to make design task a case to case base rather than a mandatory process or a general design assignment given blindly to every candidate who apply.
Yeah.
If the candidate does not have a portfolio that showcase their values or showcase that skill set required for that particular role, they definitely will have to go through the design assignment. And for example, let's say candidate is not showing the portfolio at all, saying that my portfolio is confidential, I was working in the complex product and all that. Now company does not have any choice. They will give you a
Yeah.
design task. So I think both candidate and companies should understand and should be taken on case to case basis rather than making up a mandatory
Yeah.
process. And
Correct.
sometimes candidate also see that, okay, for example, let's say if you are applying to Google or Spotify. Now for you, Google or Spotify can be a dream company. Now even if those companies are giving you a design task, you would be happily doing that.
Yeah.
Or maybe if there's a random startup with no funding at all and all, if they are giving you a design task, you still can say no, because Spotify and Google is one level above from your current career journey. So candidate also has to see that where they are applying, whether they should attempt a design task or not,
Got
rather
it.
than simply saying that, okay, I do not want to design task at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. I mean, we have to prioritize also both from company end के हर candidate को देना है, also from candidate's point of view ऐसी हर जगह पे जाके you have to take up the design assignment and start doing it. You will also have to prioritize applying for different companies as well in that case, right? You cannot just keep on applying to 200 companies at the same time and get bombarded with 20 assignment at the same time. I
Correct.
think that's where a lot of problem also starts, wherein people get exhausted after doing a few assignment as well. You apply for 2 3 companies and then you are already exhausted after rejections, and then another company asks you for assignment, and that's where people lose their shit. They're like, Arey, how many assignment do I have to do, and so on. So I think that prioritization is also something that will be very useful. Cool. All right, so far we have covered the three most important rounds. Resume ho gaya, portfolio ho gaya, and we also talked home assignment, right? uh,
Mhm, mhm.
but if we look at it from a different angle altogether, if we look at from a person who is applying for a particular job, then like in design, we have user journey, right? What are the different touch points that application or a user goes through? Similarly, what would be user journey of an application? What are all the touch points that is does that go through?
Typically what happens in the company, I mean, not in the recruitment agency, but let's say in the company, when a company is hiring few design roles, the hiring manager contacts the HR team and all that. HR team understand the requirement and they try to post a job on LinkedIn with their paid program. So HR team always has a paid program from LinkedIn. They use
Hmm.
the software or the product called LinkedIn Recruiter. They post a job there and they attract a lot of profiles after posting a job. So this is one way. Another channel is they use LinkedIn Recruiter just like a filter. I mean, let's say I'm looking for a designer with a 5 to 6 years of experience with a B2 background from, let's say, this 20 companies, somebody who has done a worked on a design system also. So I can use all the parameters in the LinkedIn software that we have a licensed software, and they find some profiles. So this is how they try to generate the leads. In the first process, when they post a job, if the brand is very very popular, like let's say Razorpay, Zeta and all that, or the Swiggy, they would be able to attract a lot of profiles, and sometimes it's a more than 100 candidates in a day. So that is
Hmm.
a very volume game. But the challenge in that case is we expect ki, okay, most of the good designers who are looking for a job, they will apply, but that mostly does not happen. People who apply are the people who are desperately looking for a job change, and they are constantly active on LinkedIn, ke what are the new jobs has come, and they are available to apply. So
Hmm.
that process, they hardly attract a right folks. Just posting a job, out of 100 profile they are receiving, they would hardly get 5 profiles which are decently matching with the requirement. So it's
Hmm.
a too much of volume and a noise, and it is a
Got
too
it.
much of waste of time for HR many of the times. Now let's say, even if they are able to attract, even if they have a good profiles in the pipeline, they have to rely on the hiring manager to go through their portfolio, understand whether this profile align with their requirement and all that. Plus the another channel is to find the right profiles through LinkedIn Recruiter, and reaching out them one by one through email or the LinkedIn messages and all that. So this is how they try to generate few leads. Post that they do a quick call with the candidate, 5 or 10 minutes, and if they feel the profile is good, they share the profile to the hiring manager for further review. Hiring managers sees their resume portfolio, and if they see the profile is aligning with their requirement, they go for the other typical interview process.
Got
So
it.
this is the process I think most of the HR follow. But I think somewhere this process is not working well, and
Hmm.
hence they need help from a hiring manager who is a designer himself or herself, or they need to work with the design recruitment or the agencies who has a specialization into product hiring, design hiring.
Got it. I think this is where I think being user comes in and saves the day for a lot of people, right? Which is, this is where, because there is a lot of noise and filtration needs to be done, and because recruiters are generally not design aware, I think this is where a specialized recruitment center is where I think would be very useful to design teams.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I think the difference comes is, for example, let's say if there is a new HR in the organizations and she is a fresher, or even if she is not fresher experience and all that, she may not have a lot of connections on LinkedIn with the designers. So even
Hmm.
if she posts, even if she writes a content or the post that, okay, we are hiring a senior product designer for our team with a 4 to 6 years experience and all that, that message is not going to the designers because she does not have connections with the good designers. Versus when when we post, I have 10,000 plus connections on my LinkedIn with most of the good designers or the senior and the designers working in the industry. The moment I post, it reaches to other designers in India, and they reshare or the repost in their respective Slack and Discord groups and their WhatsApp groups and all that. So
Yes.
my intention is to spread the message that I'm hiring for, let's say, Zeta, senior product designer. That message goes to the right folks.
Correct.
No time.
Yeah, and it generates
So
much better
also,
leads than how, a general LinkedIn post would do, I'm assuming.
yeah. Plus, I think, let's say if I'm hiring for a Zeta, if I know that okay, this is a requirement for a senior product designer, someone who has a good B2B experience and all that. In my database also, let's say if I have thousands of profiles, I know that in last 3 months, these are the people I have already talked. These are the people who are actively looking for a job change with a good B2B experience and all that. I have their contact number. I have a good personal rapport with them. Like you, I can call you and can check about your availability or interest and all that. So that leverage also definitely helps, which many
Yeah.
of the times the HR may not have.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And since you are specialized into, understanding the hiring scenario, like for example, if you ask me, I only look at the hiring market, कि market में क्या चल रहा है question only when I am hiring
Mhm.
or I am getting hired, right? But for you, since you
Correct.
do it full time, 365 days, right? So I think you have a
Yeah, yeah.
very broad overview of how the market is moving, right? So I wanted to understand from you, how has the market moved since pandemic, right? So from you can probably start from 2019 onwards. Ki what have you seen as the trend so far?
So I think I started my design recruitment journey from 2019. So initial 2 3 years, I think 2019, 20, 21. This 3 years, I mean, it was a crazy boom for our designers. I think there are a lot of the companies in India, the lot of new startups and all that. Everybody needed a design help and all that. So almost every company was hiring a designer. So there is all of a sudden so much of spike of good designers, and everybody was so much rushing to hire a designer. Most of those companies were well funded, or the investor was pushing them the money and all that, so they were rushing to hire a designer as quick as possible without sometimes understanding that okay, what type of designers they need. They do not have a right system to filter the right designers or understand what type of designers they need and all that. They were just filling the positions with, because they had deep pockets that time. So that time I think there were a lot of wrong hiring happened with a lot of inflated titles and the high money, good money and all that. But I think from last 2 years, what I see is I think there is a good amount of corrections. I mean, a lot of people are saying that okay, when the market will become a normal. I think in my knowledge, the market is normal from last 2 years or last 1 year. I
Okay.
think before the market was abnormal.
Oh, okay.
So market is pretty much normal in my opinion. Definitely there is more slowdown than required because of it was a panic situation. I mean, companies were struggling to raise fund and all that. So because of some panic cases, sometime it was companies became more conservative in terms of spending. But I think the market will, I think in 2000 it will become a normal, but it will definitely not go back to 2021 kind of
Yeah.
boom.
21 was like crazy, right? Like engineers were getting 150% hike. Designers were getting very easily 50% at least, right? So 50, 40, 30. I think that those were the numbers that I was seeing. But is it
Mhm.
normal in terms of money hike normal, salary normal, or is it the number of opening? Because I see that the number of opening is drastically reduced. I mean, forget about the hike also. People just want to get into design also. So for them also, they are finding it very tough. So do you see normal in what lens? Is it the hike or is it the number of opening that you are saying that it will be normal?
So number of jobs though definitely has significantly reduced. Maybe some amount of AI also plays a role, but I think can be couple of reasons of reducing the job, because I think in a 2021 there were too many of startups. What kind of problem they are solving, nobody cares. I mean, they have a money, they want to hire a designers. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there was normal demand, in my
Okay.
opinion. Those companies, few of the startup, maybe they may have shut down, or they had to let go designers and all that. So
Hmm.
definitely there is a more supply and less demand, but the demand is a reasonable demand. It was an inflated demand, or everybody was hiring a designer irrespective of whether they need or not, just because they had money, they wanted to hire a designer. So that way, the number of positions are definitely reduced. Second thing is, I think since there is so much of advancement in terms of the UI tools like a framer and all that, I think designing fancy interfaces this day has become much easier. I mean, you design some interface, web page is ready and all that, or with the AI abilities, or just with the young designers work with him or her for 15, 20 days, 1 month and all that, you can create a very basic websites and the basic screens and all that. I think the companies need these days are people who are like in the range of 4 to 8 years experience, or 3 to 8 years is the experience range where I think there is a good demand.
Okay.
The companies are looking for somebody who has some experience working as a designer in some good B2B or B2C companies. That is where I think there is a significant demand. I think entry level design roles have reduced significantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the number of people who are becoming UX aspirants, right? By aspirants, I mean who wants to get into the first job as a UX designer. But I think that has
Mhm.
also increased quite a bit because we have now agencies
Yes.
of mass production, right? Which can produce 100 designers in 1 month and so on. So becoming a UX designer has also become slightly easier.
Correct, correct. In fact, actually, let's say about 5 years ago, there were very few design institutes like NID, IIT, MIT, few of the institutes. Now, almost all engineering colleges are providing the Bachelor of Design also. So, number of
Hmm.
colleges who are teaching design, that also has gone up significantly in last 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. What about the entry level salary? There has been so many numbers that are floating. I mean, I have also been part of two big surveys which a lot of people refer to. I feel the market has always changed over time. हम लोग जब बनाए थे 2021 में बनाए थे, the numbers may or may not, work out for people who are still focused on those numbers. Like there are some people, especially the juniors that I talk to, they look at their senior from their college and they say ki mera senior after doing this course in 2 months got a job of X amount of entry salary, right? And I was like ki that was 2021. 2024 could be a different market. So wanted to understand from you what is an expected salary that a young designer today can expect.
So I think, as you rightly said, 2021 was completely different market. There were every company was hiring a designers. Everybody wanted a good designers or the senior designers and all that. And there were so much of shortage of a senior designers or the designers with some experience and all that. So company did not have a choice, and they were going for a young designers as well with the good salary, because that was a big demand supply gap. It was not that company were looking for a young designer. They were hiring young designers because they were unable to find a senior designers and they wanted
Hmm.
some design help. So that case has changed, or it has flipped completely.
Okay.
Now now also company needs a designers with the, let's say, 2+ years of experience. And now with the recent layoff in many companies and all that, and the some startup shutdown and all that, there is a enough supply with the 2+ years of experience range also. Okay, now companies has a lot more supply than what they need. Now, if they can, let's go by a number, let's say with the entry level designers, what I think people were getting 2 years back. If the same budget, if company can get a 2 years experienced designer, what do you think company would go for, a fresher or the experienced guy with a 1 or 2 years of experience?
Yeah.
So that way, I think a lot of things have changed. So in my opinion, we should not be so much go by those salary surveys which was done 2 years back. In fact, Being User also has done similar survey like Zeta and all that. But I would not suggest I would not say that survey is applicable in the current context, at least
Hmm.
for the young designer salaries. So
Yeah.
I would suggest not to go by the salary too much. Rather, you should see what is the current market situation, where you stand in the game of demand and supply.
Hmm.
If you are applying to, let's say, a young designer has applied to 20 companies and he or she is not getting back a call from any of those companies, it is good to introspect and understand ki where are the gaps, why he or she is asking certain salary, and if they are not coming back, it means there is some gaps. And let's say, or there
Hmm.
are some other designers who are going with the lesser salary. So we have to understand the case to case basis also. I think when designers are starting their career, I think if somebody is able to get a good opportunity with the good salary in the good companies, nothing wrong. But if they feel that if they are struggling to crack the interviews or get a job with the salary that they have in a mind, it is good to be flexible in terms of the kind of company they want to work, in terms of
Hmm.
kind of title or the salary they are about to get. For example, many designers you ask, I mean, they have a preference to work with the product companies, and they are not so keen to work with the agencies and the studios or the consulting companies.
Hmm.
In my opinion, I think if someone is getting an opportunity to start their career, that is more important than what type of company
Absolutely.
you are working. As long as you are
Absolutely.
able to get a good learning and a growth, because down the line, once you got good experience and the good learning, definitely you are going to grow in terms of your
Yeah.
career. So
Yeah.
I think I would suggest not to go so much driven by the salary for when you are starting a career. Go and see what kind of learning and growth that you are looking for, and what role that can help you navigate your career, even if it is a slightly lesser salary, even if it is a slightly
Yeah.
lower title, even if it is a not remote or working in the cities that is not your preferred locations and all that, or working with the agencies, studios. I think being flexible with what you are looking for will definitely help you, at least in the current context.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I was also talking to with somebody else, and I was telling them ki don't think that your dream job has to be your first job, right? Your dream job could be your second job, third job. You have to grow into
Yeah,
that
yeah.
dream job, right? So you don't have to be restricted and filter out a lot of companies from the get-go itself, right? I know that well-funded product startups pay the highest, right? But
Hmm.
then not everybody is hiring, not everybody is qualified to be there, and everybody also has a budget to hire 2 years 3 years experienced people as well. So you may not end up with your favorite companies, let's say your Swiggy or your Cred or your whatever companies that are making the noise these days. So you could start from
Correct.
somewhere and then always have a goal ki acha agar life mein kabhi switch karna hai to when the market is right, when there are opportunities, and when I am ready, I can also do that switch.
And also, I think each company offers a different type of learning. I mean, for example, let's
Absolutely.
say if you are working in a company like a Cred and Swiggy, you will get an opportunity to work on the class, the B2C design team, and so much of delightful experiences with the motion
Correct.
design interactions, good UI, and let's say lottie files and a lot of those kind of stuff. Versus
Yes.
if you work with the, let's say, design studios and agencies, you will be thrown in front of the clients. You are doing a lot of client conversations, understanding their pain point, a
Yeah.
lot of ad hoc requirement, different domains, different type of problem solving from a B2B to B2C to enterprise. So I think, in my opinion, there are different learning are available at each places. You may get an opportunity to learn something else. Maybe when you work with the agencies and studio, you will get different learning in the B2C companies. So
Ab-
I think it's thing is learning. I think that learning will definitely help you down the line somewhere in your career.
yeah, definitely. I
Or who
mean,
knows, you can start your own design studio after
absolutely.
working with
Yes.
the 2 years in one design agency or the
Yes.
studio. The guy who are working in a product companies, it is a difficult for them to run a design studio. People who worked in a design studios, they know how to crack a deal, how to send a proposal, how to make a billing, considering the other competitors in the market, what should be the proposal that helps you
Yes.
crack the deal and all that. So there is a different types of learning. I think agencies also offers. So
Yeah. Completely in agreement with that. Ki every path offers a different set of learning. Wanted to understand again, this comes from the community wherein people are curious. Why does it take sometimes so long for HR to give a rejection email? I mean, sometimes people wait for 2 3 months after application and then they get a rejection email.
So ideally, 2 3 months wala companies are to definitely would not be a good companies, or the companies who does not respect a good does not respect how to provide a good delightful experience to the candidates. But I think ideally in a good time, I think in a 1 weeks or 2 weeks, ideally the candidate should get a rejection feedback. The reason I think sometimes HR is struggling to provide you the right feedback on time is, I think sometimes maybe because of the hiring manager also. I think who are the hiring manager in this case? I mean, if you look at this system, there are candidates, design candidates, there are HR people or the recruiters, and there are
Hmm.
hiring manager. Hiring manager are the design leaders, the lead designer, per designer, design manager. Those people are so-called very busy profiles. I mean, HR do not get a timely feedback, or they HR cannot reach out to the design managers in a good frequency and all that. So
Mm.
sometimes HR is struggling to get the feedback from the hiring manager on time. Plus, hiring manager is doing lot of work with the design, the strategy, the executions, and all that. The interview part is sometimes is not something they enjoy a lot. And if you
Mm.
ask a HR design manager, okay, you rejected this candidate a week ago, can you let me know what was the reason? He or she may have forgotten completely. They
Absolutely,
don't
yeah.
know why did I reject that candidate? I don't know. So I will give some vague feedback, or I'll try to
Yeah,
avoid giving the feedback. So
yeah.
I think it is the responsibility of HR to set a standard practices that, okay, if hiring manager is rejecting any profile after the interview, he
Mm.
or she has to share the feedback by end of the day or within 24 hours.
Got it. Yeah, I mean,
Because
that has to
after a
be,
certain
yeah, I think that has to be built into the process itself. Ki if you're rejecting somebody, you cannot reject somebody without giving a two-liner feedback on them, maybe, right? So maybe that's something that could be built into some processes.
that
Got
is
it.
where I think the many startups are struggling, or many startups are failing to set the right process and all that. And hiring managers sometimes overpower HR,
Mm.
which is also not a good thing. HR
Yeah.
does their own job. Maybe the hiring manager or the design head is definitely a bigger profile, but I think they should give them the right respect and try to work as a
Yeah,
team.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, sometimes that power dynamics also, screws things up. Okay, so I have one last question, which is if there was a aspirant who has been applying for jobs and is getting rejected many times, and this is something which is very common in today's market, do you have any advice for them? A person who is getting rejected continuously for, let's say, two, three attempts they have given, they're getting rejection mails all the time.
So I think we already discussed maybe these points here and there, but I think one thing is, if a young designer does not know where he is failing or where he or she is failing, why companies are rejecting, that is the, I think, biggest problem I've seen. I think designers are not taking extra effort to understand why they are facing the rejections. Either try to talk to some senior designers and the mentors and try to understand what are the gaps in their presentations, in their resumes and the portfolio, or the way they communicate with the companies and all that. And also beyond design skills, I think sometimes a lot of soft skills also plays a critical role.
Hmm.
Designers feel that, oh, I have all the things are ready in my portfolio, good problem
Ha.
solving skills, good ideations, the way you communicate, the way you narrate the problem, the way you show your collaborations or the team player skills,
Hmm.
the way you show that how good you are hustler. Because I think if you are applying to the startups, I think startup are primarily looking for people who comes with a very open or flexible mindset, that even
Yeah.
if you, let's say, startup cannot hire a one product designer, one UI designer, one illustrator
Hmm.
artist, one social media designer. Now, are you flexible to do any kind of design, any kind of
True.
problem solving? So
There.
those kind of flexibility, the hustle mindset, talking to the, sometimes let's say if there is not enough design work, are you the person who can do the business development and generate some leads
Hmm.
for your startup also? I'm not saying we need to do that, but I think showing that kind of flexibility, that openness also, I think, does a magic beyond just a design
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah. I think the point where you said that we should, keep improving with every rejection that we get is something that I resonate with, especially in the content creation domain. Because every time we create a content and it doesn't work or it does work, we have to always look at ki, acha, which part of it. Obviously, we have enough analytics to look at it and see where the drop offs are, or if something is working, how is the comment coming up, and
Mhm.
so on. So what we try to do, not everybody, but a few content creators who are very analytical about their content creation journey, is with every content we try to improve something. It could be a lighting thing, it could be a editing thing, it could be a better sound effect, it could be better use of SFX. And I think eventually with enough improvement we would one day find that sweet spot of getting the job. And I
Mhm.
think on a positive note, you can apply to any number of jobs, but you just need one job, right? So you just need to be lucky and happy once, and all the pain of rejection and everything will go away with that one job cracking. So I think that is something that people can also keep in mind when they're applying. Okay. All
Sure.
right. So thank you so much for giving a very detailed analysis of how design hiring works, how being user also helps people, companies to hire better, and every small aspect of design hiring, starting from resume, portfolio, take home assignment, and so many other things that we talked about. It is not just about what to do, but also a lot of mindset stuff that you also talked about, right? Which is key, how to not look at salary and get anchored to it and so on. So it was a very insightful conversation. I'm pretty sure everybody who is still at this point in the video observing this conversation, taking notes in this conversation, will find something value. So thank you so much for your time, and yeah,
Thanks, Bharat. I think it's always pleasure talking to you too.
thank you, thank you. All right.
Thank you. Chalo, bye.
Yeah, bye bye.